Awake.
You know what? I think we need more than to wake up. We need to get out of bed, put our boots on, and start getting into some action, because how dare they, the corrupt administration, which is not Ko Hawaii Pai Aina administration now.
No.
You do have a choice. It is our nation. It belongs to you, myself, Jeremiah. It belongs to all of us. Now we have the choice of recognizing that we are within an independent nation, not under or subjected to a corrupt administration like the United States in their agenda and protocol of depopulation. We're not in that at all. We are independent. And if we simply stand up on that ground, we can protect and preserve our human rights together. What has recently taken place, and what you have in front of you there, is something that people here can start implementing right away, and that's the resolution from the County of Maui.
Yeah, it's recognizing the United States Public Law 103-150, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of 1948, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights of 1966, which is more recent, and the International Covenant of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights of 1966.
It says it all right there. Look, finally,
And you can join in.
the local, the local
All the groups,
regime.
I shouldn't say
under-
groups, all the causes can join in to this resolution, the Kanakas.
Right, because prior to becoming part of a group or anything, we are human beings.
Yes.
And this is what we share. We have rights to be respected, and that officials or agents with the United States administration, remember now, we put out that U.S. memo from Hillary Clinton's office, and that's something that
I just want to point out
keeps them to
that,
it. Yeah.
Under the Human Rights Task Force, you got to remember the definition of officials. They are public servants. You know, they're not your masters. You got to remember that. Once they changed over to the bankers and the legislatures started to change over the laws, they became your masters. Now, if you don't stand up, they will be your masters completely. But we have the time to change that. We can make them our servants. The only problem is sometimes is that when you're a politician, now I'm not saying myself, but when you're a politician, you're going to follow the powers that be. The powers that be is the ones that are going to dictate to you. So if the bank and the lawyers and the judges are in control of the non-existing constitution, then what do you think the politicians are going to do? They're going to just follow the powers that be until we take it back.
I have something to say about that, and that is the Aloali'i did the correct thing. They adopted in the original jurisdiction so that it is enforced through existing kanawai, not corrupted by a corrupted administration bent on world dominance or whatever.
Ko Hawaii Pai Aina.
Ko Hawaii Pai Aina, which is the actual name and legitimate of the archipelagic nation. This Olaloho'olo Maoli is adopted and approved by the Aloali'i, who's on the other side to the United States occupant administration, which is locally known as the County of Maui. Now, this is not personal. This is entity to entity, or body to body. Now, one body, County of Maui, or whatever agency under the United States administration, claims to have a position within our archipelago by virtue of a joint resolution, which was unauthorized by a self-proclaimed group calling themselves Republic of Hawaii. Now that has led to the systemic or epistemic violations of human rights permitted and committed by the United States administration. And that is not difficult to believe, people. Why would the global parties of the world create a venue just to examine that? Yeah, and the United States happened to be the first first
yeah.
nation that came up for examination. Now, it is continuing until March when there will be an action plan to be implemented. Now, don't forget that during this process, mahalo to the Human Rights Task Force, that the independence being the resolution was brought up by the civil society units of the United Nations.
America.com said that, I believe.
Yeah, .gov.
Oh,
right.
.gov, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And they said about independence for Hawaii.
Right.
And that was historic.
That's historic.
Yeah, because the world don't know that that we need the independence so that we can protect our people.
Prevent corrupt government.
Yes.
Prevent corrupt government.
Give the power back to the people.
Right.
That's what you can stop corruption. Once there's a central bank, then you have corrupt power. You have to give everything back to the people. You have to. And that's what the Constitution said. That's what our kanawai.
Speaking of the Constitution, and I respect that, our kanawai. Mai ka'i maoli no. You have
The state constitution of Hawaii.
yeah. Read that first here
Yeah,
because
the
then I can
preamble
come
is
up with this
we,
part.
the people of Hawaii, grateful for divine guidance and mindful of our Hawaiian heritage and uniqueness as an island state, dedicate our efforts to fulfill the philosophy decreed by the Hawaii state motto, Umau te ea o ka aina I ka pono.
Well, what does it say under there? You can.
Well, I stopped
What's
with that.
that right
Yeah,
there?
when I was singing the righteousness of the land, Yes, I think already. And we reserve the rights to control our destiny, to nurture the integrity of our people and culture,
Okay.
and to preserve the quality of life that we deserve.
And then what do they say? We're going
Right.
to adopt the.
Hey, they're going to adopt right here. It says right here, we're going to affirm. See? Oh, the federal constitution adopted. Now that's pretty tricky, I think.
That most of our viewers won't get that,
No.
but I'm gonna break
Yeah,
it down.
please,
Okay.
please.
So what that is all about one party reserving to themselves rights, self-proclaimed to themselves, and by the way, they're going to adopt a foreign nation's constitution. Now, let me get to that. Underneath this, or behind this, as the reason is, the Hawaii Constitution was framed by a constitutional convention, meaning an add-on, under Act 334 of the Session Laws of the Self-Proclaimed Territory of Hawaii in 1949. It was adopted by the people at that election, election. Sorry, I am thinking ahead 20
think I
miles.
threw you off.
I mean, just way ahead of this. November 7, 1950. Okay. This act of 1949 was actually done by a foreign Congress in a foreign nation. That is what makes it inapplicable to this nation. Now, the act was done under a self-proclaimed Territory of Hawaii group. Putting that into perspective, and then seeing the state of Hawaii's written declaration that they are guided, and so they are going to preserve their, state motto. It didn't come from the state of Hawaii. It came from the constitutional king, Kauikeoli Kamehameha Ekolu, who was brilliant in designing the Mahele system. The only land patenting system on earth, the superpower United States has never been able to dismember or take
Turn,
apart.
twist, or
Right.
try to conceal.
Right. So the state of Hawaii Constitution is not a
Makes
constitution like you think, or
Makes
that
sense.
49 states actually have. The state of Hawaii Constitution is essentially in law a convention that was
There you go.
done in 1978, and that provides kind of a temporary shell, if you would, for the state corporate based upon its predecessor in allegation, which has been the Republic of Hawaii self-proclaimed group since 1895.
And
I
there's been a
believe.
lot of human rights violation and injury
Absolutely.
associated to all of this, which we are sending out. We are sending that out.
Can we go back to maybe recapping on the last show that we did, bringing out all that information? Thank you, everyone, for responding so wonderfully to that. Yay, where we brought out the actual voter fraud evidence, where we held up the actual ballot that contained
show it?
three
You wanna show
choices. Yeah, we're going to show the Peter Jennings clip again, just to kind of refresh everyone here.
It's like the Bible. You got to repeat
we
every
had.
time because sometimes.
Sometimes
On
we
Wall
miss
Street
it a
today, the
little.
Dow Jones Industrials gained 13.5 points to close at 3687, and the trading was moderate. When we come back, the American agenda, native Hawaiians who say, "Give us back our country." The American agenda tonight, a most significant presidential apology. At the White House yesterday, President Clinton signed a formal letter of apology to the people of Hawaii. He was apologizing on behalf of the U.S. government for the government's involvement 100 years ago in removing the independent Hawaiian monarchy by force. And on the agenda tonight, Hawaiian identity. Our agenda reporters Ken Kashiwahara.
They are descendants of the island's original inhabitants. And this is their public image, filled with aloha spirit and Hawaiian hospitality. Living in harmony with dozens of other ethnic and racial groups. This is the reality. Native Hawaiians represent nearly half of all those in prison and make up 30% of the homeless population. They are the poorest, least educated, and unhealthiest of any ethnic group in the state. Now they are saying, enough. Sovereignty! No! Sovereignty now. To solve their problems, Hawaiians are demanding the right to govern themselves, federal recognition as a native group, and compensation for past wrongs. As improbable as it may sound, they want their land and their country back.
Say it in your heart. Say it when you sleep. We are not American. We will die as Hawaiians. We will never be Americans.
Once, Hawaii was an independent nation recognized by foreign countries, including the United States. Then in 1893, American sugar barons, with help from U.S. Marines, illegally overthrew the Hawaiian Queen and took over. Today, righting a 100-year-old wrong has galvanized the Hawaiian community, but dozens of groups advocating sovereignty can't agree on what that means. Bumpy Kanahele and the Ohana Council represent one extreme, secession from the United States. From a beachhead on the island of Oahu, they fly the Hawaiian flag upside down.
That signifies a country in distress.
And the United Nations flag, demanding total independence under the UN Charter.
We are entitled to the land that we stand on, the water in the land, the ocean, and the air we breathe.
Many Hawaiians take these claims.
That was what we showed on the shows that we had previously. Now, a lot has happened since 1993. A lot of education has exploded onto the scene. A lot of young people now are more educated than the people that were instrumental at the time then about what we really have and what we actually have in our possession, which is total and complete sovereignty, which is unlike partial or tribal sovereignty, which is what the United States Foreign Administration is offering, and what was part of the offer in the, thank goodness, destroyed, keep it down, Akaka bill. We want to talk about continuing on that movement in a fresh new way, in an enlightened and much more committed way. And Jeremiah's got something here that he wants to
Yeah, I'm
follow up
kind
with
of
on that.
excited when I read it, so please bear with me.
Okay.
Yeah.